All right. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to Express Sessions. My name is Gavin Manu. I'm the publisher of the Express News Group, including in this neck of the woods, the East Hampton Press and the website 27east.com. I first want to thank everybody here at Rowdy Hall, Christy, Mark, Joe, their entire team for being such gracious hosts. Thank you for having us. Today's Express Sessions event is a little different than some of the things we've done in the past. Everybody says, oh, what topic are we discussing? And because we've been doing these for 8 years, we've pretty much discussed every topic. But what we decided to do was kind of open it up a little bit and just kind of hear from all of you, from our readers, what's on your mind now, what's happening now in the town of East Hampton, in the village of East Hampton. Obviously, we know what a lot of the big issues are that will come up, but we're also going to open it up to you guys to come up with some ideas to talk about today. And we also have this wonderful group of panelists who will help lead that conversation, and I will introduce them in a moment. First, I want to thank our sponsors of the Express Sessions. This group of businesses have been with us for years, many of them, and we couldn't do any of it without them. The presenting sponsor of the Express Sessions is Rocco Carrero Wealth Partners. It's a wealth advisory firm. They have an office here in East Hampton. Their main office is in Southampton. Rocco couldn't be with us today, but I want to thank Rocco and his team. Our session leaders are the Adam Miller Group, which is a law firm based in Bridgehampton. Adam is here with us today. Thank you so much. And Jameson as well. Thank you both for being here. And also Advantage Title, which is a title firm with its main East End office in Riverhead. And I want to actually invite up the president of Advantage Title, Chris Nuzzi, who's with us today. Chris, come on up, Chris. Chris is a former Southampton Town councilman. He is a graduate of East Hampton High School and an old friend. And I just wanted to give him a chance to say a word or two.
He's not that old.
Why is he your
Almost as old as you, Dave.
Don't judge me by my hair or hairline. Thank you, Gavin. I just want to say how much we appreciate being able to be a part of these and the work that the Express does to put them together and welcome members of the community. And as importantly, and today most importantly, putting together business leaders and members from government to talk about some of the ideas that are important to all of us. I mean, that's ultimately what it's about. I say former Supervisor Cantwell here as well. So, I spent time in government and recognize, some of the difficulties and the things that you got to work with and some of the disagreements that come about. But that brings about sometimes lively debate, but good things in terms of outcomes. So I certainly appreciate on the part of both government and business leaders over here today, your time and efforts in everything that you do. So thanks for having us here today. Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. I'd also like to thank our session partners, Saybrook Capital, Zappola Construction, Dayton Ritz and Osborne Insurance, and thank you, Ava, for being here today. Sand Pebble Project Management, Jill, thank you for being with us today. And the law firm of Toomey, Latham Shea, Kelly Dubin, and Corderaro. Thank you to all our sponsors. And of course, we couldn't do any of this without our media partners, WLIW-FM. Brian and Mike are here with us today. WLIW is Long Island's only NPR station. They provide a unique blend of news, music, and entertainment for the East End. They partner with us on a few projects, including our Behind the Headlines radio show. You can listen to WLIW at 88.3, 88.7, and 96.9, depending on where you are on Long Island. And of course, online at WLIW.org/radio. And public radio's had a kind of a tough year, and I really encourage support of our local radio station. So thanks so much, guys. And then lastly, before we jump into the meat of this, I just want to thank some members of our team who are here today. Ellen Diogardi, our director of events, Jack Motes, our reporter, Dana Shaw, our photo editor, Lee Meyer, our newest hire, who's a photo editor and multimedia guy, and of course, my wife, Georgie Manu, who's over there in the corner. Thank you all for being here. So as for today's discussion, like I said, the idea is to focus on issues that are facing the town, the village, some of the problems, hopefully talk about a lot of solutions if we can, and, affordable housing, development, the environment, paid parking, sewer systems. Many of you in the room know the list of issues. So I want to introduce our panelists who are going to help us dive into some of that. Joining us are East Hampton Town Supervisor Kathy Burke-Gonzalez. Thank you, Kathy.
Hey, everyone.
East Hampton Town Councilman David Lease. Thank you, David. Kevin Warren, who's a partner with Fifth and Dune and is the chair of the board of the East Hampton Town Housing Authority. Thank you, Kevin. Amanda Merrow, who is the co-owner of Amber Waves Farm. Thank you, Amanda. Andrew Visconti, who is the director of community outreach for Ruta 27. Thank you, Andrew. And last but certainly not least, East Hampton Village Mayor Jerry Larson. Thank you, Jerry. I'd also like to recognize Ian Calder-Piedmont and Kate Rogers from the town board who are with us today. Thank you for joining us. And as well as town clerk-elect Michael Hansen. Thank you, Michael. And obviously, as I said, we want to hear from all of you during this conversation. So Ellen will have a microphone she can bring around to you. Please introduce yourself. Please be brief so we can hear from as many of you as possible. But we are going to go to the floor for some questions and comments. And handling that task will be the moderator of today's event, the consulting editor of the Express News Group, Joe Shaw. Joe?
Yeah, much slicker reduction of the microphone there. Appreciate that. Thanks for coming, everybody. Always fun to do these here. It's always a great room and a great set of topics and a great conversation. So Gavin touched on a little bit. We are calling this series of Express Sessions events Local Matters, and we've taken a different format, which is we really don't come in with an agenda for the conversation. We want you to tell us what the conversation needs to be. And obviously, we know what some of the topics are going to be, and we will touch on all those. And I think the panel we have here is particularly good for diving into some of the stuff that we need to talk about. But I do want to emphasize, this is a conversation. You guys are part of the conversation. So we are going to go to the audience early, and we're going to give you a chance to comment and ask questions and be part of this conversation. Two things. First of all, I will say it's a little tricky when we do these types of events because we're going to go topic to topic, so I'd like to stay on a topic for a little bit, and then we'll switch topics, and I do want to hear people suggest topics so that we can have those conversations, but I do want to sort of have a focus on a topic before we switch gears. So we'll get to as many as we possibly can today, but if we're talking about one thing, let's talk about one thing till we're done, then we'll move on and talk about something else. Number 2, silence your cell phones. Not really, frankly, not really necessary. It's not a movie theater. I don't really care that much. It doesn't distract me. Number 3, so the elephant in the room is that we have 2 people on the panel who very well could be involved in a political race next year. I want to tell you that we set this event up well before any of that came to pass. This is not a political roundtable conversation, so we're going to try and keep it focused on the issues as much as we can. We've talked with both candidates. They're fine with that. So let's try and keep it focused on the issues today as we talk. So with that, I will start with the town supervisor, Kathy Burke-Gonzalez. Kathy, what do you think we need to talk about today? What to you is a topic that we really need to discuss today?
So when I look down the panel at our colleagues and community partners, I think we need to talk about community well-being because a lot of folks in our community are really struggling right now.
When you say well-being, what are we talking about?
Well, we have, Andrew's here. We've got folks, our immigrant neighbors are afraid to leave their homes and go to the laundromat and go out to dinner. Fortunately, the governor has instituted, the no cell phone, rule in the schools, but our kids are addicted to their phones. We need to get them off their screens. And, we've been working with our partners and with adolescent mental health. So I think along those lines.
Those are all critical.
And Amanda's here, and the work that Amber Waves does with the food pantries. We have folks that are really struggling with putting food on the table.
Especially this time of year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's important. David, what do you think we need to talk about today?
Thank you, Joe, Gavin, and Georgie, and everyone from Rowdy Hall and the Honest Man Dining Group. Thank you for having us. I think what we got to talk about is who's not here, and who's not here is younger people. Who's not here is our next generation. Everyone hears this a lot from me. I do my job through the lens of my children, and I make my decisions through the lens of my children. What do they need? What do they want East Hampton to be, become, or at this moment? When I got into this job, when I was in this job about 8 years ago, all my kids were in grammar school. I have ones in college now. I have ones thinking about post-college. I still have a third grader, but you put that all together, what do we need? What makes it fun for them? What do we need for business? What do we need for affordability? What do we need for housing? What do we need for recreation? What do we need for our trails? We want our beaches. What do we want to become? But how do we try to maintain the youth that are growing up here? There's individuals that can look out here and see our former band teacher here, right? And our jazz band teachers. You don't get that as much anymore in the classes that are most recently here. I agree with what Kathy is saying then too. Protection of who's here, but I want to also protect the children. That's maybe what I would like to discuss, if we don't mind, today also. Terrific. What do we do for our kids and the next generation?
Definitely. Okay. Kevin Warren, as the chair of the Housing Authority Board, housing is obviously a part of this, right? What do we need to talk about as far as housing goes today?
I'd say honestly it'd be
Can you pull your microphone a little closer too? Just
unified community commitment in terms of what David just mentioned. We don't see any second generation or new generation coming up. They can't afford to live here. That's why they're not here in this room today. So I'd like to touch upon that. And it takes a whole entire community, regardless of your beliefs. A unified community could really do some positive damage in terms of this town, keeping residents, local residents. And I'd like to touch upon that.
Definitely. Amanda, what's a topic that we need to discuss today?
Well, I think I'll echo what Kathy and David and Kevin each said ahead of me. Those are great. And important things for us to talk about. I think, who's not here? The young people. I serve on multiple boards and committees in town. I'm 40. I'm frequently the youngest one participating by decades, and so I'd be thrilled to see more involvement and participation in that age group. I think, associated with the work that we do at Amber Waves, certainly agriculture as a part of our community and East End heritage is important to me, keeping farmland available and open, accessible to farmers. And then associated with that is food security, which is something that has already been touched on. But, the wealth of the East End is really effective at hiding the tremendous need that actually exists here for people who really struggle for their basic needs. So I'd love to get into that as well.
Okay. Andrew Visconti, this is your first time on the panel. You are with Ruta 27. Maybe tell us a little bit about Ruta 27 and then tell us something we should talk about today.
For those of you who are not familiar with Ruta 27, Programa de Inglés, it is a local not-for-profit that provides English as a second language to the local Latino community. Only adults. If they're younger than 18, we direct them to the high school. Who are our students? The people who cut your grass are our students. The people who check you out at the supermarket are our students. The people who build your house or to do repairs in your house are our students. And yet, if I look around, I don't see a lot of Latinos here. So where is the Latino community? Is it integrated with the community at large? And how can we better integrate the Latino community with the community at large?
Sounds good. We'll get there. Jerry, what are some topics we should discuss today?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. We definitely need the next generation to be able to stay here and live here. As mayor of East Hampton, I also have the responsibility to make sure we have enough volunteers in our fire department and our ambulance service, which not only serves the village, but also serves parts of the town, and the town is contracted with the village to do that. So I think one of the most important things that we can do is try to find a way to keep the next generation here. I agree 100% with David. And in the village, we also have a very big problem with traffic congestion, as everybody knows, parking issues. And that then causes problems with residents with quality of life issues, with speeding on the back roads, and like you had that pedestrian hit right here in Amagansett not too long ago. So those are the issues that I see in the village that we need to focus on.
So let's maybe start with housing, because it sounds like that is one of the key issues. We're talking about generational issues and wanting to be able to keep younger people here, and housing is clearly the number one problem that we have. So kind of torn from the headlines, there was a proposal that was on the table just until this week from Kirby Marcantonio related to affordable housing. So I want to talk a little bit about the town's affordable housing approach and how complicated an issue this is. It's funny because whenever we start talking about affordable housing at these events, the terminology comes into play, because when we say, well, it's not really affordable, it's workforce housing, but workforce housing isn't quite right either, because it's also for seniors. And we don't really have good language to have this conversation. And I think it also demonstrates that the solutions are not one-off solutions. We need lots of different kinds of housing in the town. So let's start talking about the proposal that was on the table until this week and now has been pulled off the table by Kirby Marcantonio when it didn't earn the board's approval. Kathy, can you talk a little bit about what you think the shortcomings were there with that proposal?
So for, I don't know if there's many people out there that don't know about the proposal, but the applicant came forward and they were asking for an affordable housing overlay designation over 6.5 acres on 3 Mile Harbor Road. And they were looking to put 79 condominium units there, and it would be purchased by the employer, and then he would rent it at affordable rates to staff members. And I think one of the first things was that the model also called for that the sale of those, the developer was going to create these 2 and 3 bedroom units and then sell them to the employers, and then they were, out of the game. And so it wasn't owner occupied like we have on Accabonac Highway. And so the community was very concerned. It's also in an historic, farm area, so the folks didn't feel that it was fit within the character of the community there, and they were afraid of the traffic and that employers could come in and they may be more a seasonal workforce there, and there could be, 2 people to each bedroom. So it was going to generate a lot of traffic and possibly noise. And so that was the concern. But for the board, the ask was, would we be, did we want to move to public hearing to have an affordable housing overlay put on the property? And did we want to make a code change to make this new model that the developer came through with considered affordable?
So David, let me ask you this. Let's truncate this a little bit, because I think that proposal had 2 problems. One, as Kathy says, was clearly the site, which a lot of people objected to the location and the fact that it would require a big change to do it on that site. Let's remove that aspect of this. Let's talk about about employer housing. Does that exist anywhere in the town right now?
Only if an employer owns it themselves, but not in the town code. And so that was part of the request on there. I own employer housing for my own business. And I think of many employers out here, and they might own their own business, and others on the panel might say they have to rent multiple houses for their employees. But as far as the definition of the town code on there, no, it does not. And so that was part of the problem here, that had to be situated within the petition that was there then too. It's a challenge right now to find new areas to develop that are new structures. I firmly believe that affordable housing has to come in all different sizes, shapes, looks, vernacular, needs, seniors, young, colors, everything. But what happens in this one, it was incompatible growth. But I also think one of the greatest parts about this discussion here is that we might have found new partners, new ideas. And that is something that Kathy and the town board has been looking at, is how do we expand the affordable housing initiative to individuals that might want to be thinking creatively, invest in it, invest in East Hampton Township. Sitting to my left is a man that has masterfully done that then too, working with his board. And those type of partners are needed. So I think that was one of the best things to take out of it. But overall, to the question, no, that's not in the code. that's part of what we have to keep approaching right now, and how it's packaged together was something that wasn't appropriate in my humble opinion.
Do you think, the two of you, do you think the board's opinion right now is that this is a non-starter, or is this an element that could be part of the solution, you just need more time to work out details?
I think it can be part of the solution. I think that we should have a code that allows for employer-sponsored housing. Maybe we do it as a pilot and do it with one project to see if it works. But there has to be a central management system so that you don't have 79 or 50 separate owners. And it needs to be like the way the housing authority is operating right now. Kevin can talk to it. I mean, they have come in before they purchased the cottages, they manage that on behalf of the Sag Harbor Community Housing Trust. So there has to be one central place where you go that is making sure people are qualified to live in the affordable housing, but also make sure that people are following the rules and the buildings are being maintained and whatnot.
Kevin, you're on the front lines of this. You see the people who need housing. Would this be a workable solution for some of those people? I mean, can you chart a way that employer housing could work for the town, and what some of the pitfalls are that you'd need to address when you set up town code?
I'm always on the fence in terms of employer-based housing. I'm a strong believer that there should be commitments in terms of a potential stipend, if you will. I never want any one of my employees to feel that they're confined to maintaining employment with me while
that's one of the problems,
housing.
right? Yeah. If you're tying somebody's employment to where they live.
But in all reality, if I was to have an employee with employee rented housing, I'm going to give that employee a stipend, which we do. An extra $1,000 a month to contribute because I want you to be a resident in East Hampton. I don't want you to commute 4 hours a day. I want you to give back to the community that is giving so much to you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you $12,000 a year. And then in the event that you have an opportunity where you can get a raise or a new position for $24,000, it allows that individual to really weigh in, what's my growth opportunity here? I don't want any employee to ever feel like they're stepping out on a limb where what if it doesn't work? I might lose the job I have now and I might lose my home. And I never want anybody to wake up every day saying, I'm stuck, I'm in a rut. So I think employer contributions in terms of local housing stipends keeps less people off our road, less commuting, definitely cuts down on emissions, and it makes that person feel like they are part of a community. Right now, so many people are traveling from Bayshore upwards of 16 hours a week. What's their quality of life? They see their kids maybe 20 minutes a day. They're either sleeping or they're commuting. So on a community-based approach, you can get a committee of all local reputable general contracting companies that would actually contribute and be very intrigued and interested if I had a waived building permit fee and I collaborated with Ben Krupinski and Jeff Gagliotti of Bulgin. How do we unify? How do we divide and conquer? You're not going to sit at a table here today and resolve housing. We're just going to continuously talk about it. But if you start chipping away at it at multiple different angles, on a commercial approach, on a residential approach, I think you'll have a lot more benefit.
I don't mean to go down the table in order here, but Amanda, the agricultural.
Let's do just that.
Let's do that. We're going to do exactly that. Amanda, the agricultural community, the idea of employer housing is not new, right? I mean, that's something that farm worker housing, for instance, has been a part of the East End for generations.
Yes, I think farm worker housing is, well, the East Hampton Ag Advisory Committee is excited to start really digging into what on-farm farm worker housing could look like in East Hampton. Certainly, it's not appropriate to solve all of our housing issues, but like Kevin said, we have to chip away at it so we can fix agricultural housing here and public-private partnerships over here, and it's going to be a cobbled together puzzle of how we fix it across the town. So, I mean, for our purposes, we don't own any housing. We rent. Amber Waves rents 8 houses in the town of East Hampton that are occupied by our team. Some who are, our top level managers at our market and farm, and others who are seasonal apprentices who come here and learn how to farm. And then some of them go back to where they're from, but then some of them start farms on town-owned farmland right in East Hampton. So we have a variety of people that we're housing in that rented housing.
Pardon me, does it make a difference that you're renting rather than buying housing and providing it to workers? I mean, you still are providing housing for workers, right?
We're providing housing. I think, I struggle with this, that, the homes that we can afford, that Amber Waves, the nonprofit, can afford to rent and then subsidize for our team members, are houses that really ought to be rented by families who have kids going to school districts. And so the housing that's appropriate for us really it's a condo, or it's dormitory style housing in the second story of a barn. I don't mean to, nicer than barn, but but simple dormitory style housing for people who live here year round, or at least 10 months of the year. But we're then, I think, we're seeing employers that are elbowing into housing that maybe otherwise ought to be used for different segments of our population. So we've done it this way for many years. We've been, as kind of the only way that we can draw new blood into the community to do these jobs. And then many of them stay, which is great. And some of them graduate out of our housing and and figure out their own housing long term, which we love to see. But it's the only solution that we've been able to figure out at this point to keep our organization viable.
And if I may,
Absolutely.
So we've, the town has purchased, I guess out of the last 3 ag purchases we made, 2 of them had housing on it.
Yeah, we keep losing those to
So
our own alumni. It's really exciting.
We've already proven that it works, right? So we've got 2 young farmers living actually in both houses, one on Cedar Street and one on Talmadge Farm Lane.
Farmhouse.
Farmhouse Lane. So we know it works. And one of the things that came out in our conversations, with the Nichols family during the work sessions and actually the East Hampton CAC, is that we've allowed apartments over commercial structures. We need to write code that allows apartments over, barns and things like that. And we need to be able to, house some of our agricultural staff right on the property. I didn't have an opportunity to go to the East Hampton Chamber meeting a couple months ago, but I know Scott Rubenstein was on a panel, and he's got, a large tract of land over on Daniels Hole Road, and he's looking to, build employer housing for his staff. I think in those terms, because some of these businesses that own houses, it's seasonal, and a lot of the folks that come are singles, like a tennis pro or a golf pro will come. They know that their housing is tied to their employment contract that they sign, and they know it's for a season. So I think for that model, it works. Mm-hmm. But, so I think, as what we're saying is there's so many different ways, because our community, when we're trying to do bigger projects, there are sometimes, pinch points and pushback for putting 60 units in a neighborhood, whereas we're looking to relax the ability to do an ADU on a 15,000 square acre parcel, where before when we started, it was an acre. So we're working our way down and making sure the guardrails are in place. But we do have to be creative and chip away at it, as Kevin said.
There's a friction between trying to do as much as you can when you have a chance and not having too much density and changing things.
Yeah.
I want to invite the audience in. If you have a question or comment on this topic, raise your hand, and Ellen will be around with the microphone. Andrew, a lot of the people we're talking about are Spanish-speaking folks who are taking the jobs and need the housing. What's your perspective on that from that point of view? Employer housing does not seem to be favorable for workers. I mean, it does provide housing, but...
You're absolutely right. Together with the organization OLA, I think that Ruta 27 is the only local organization that really has a sense of what is going on in the Latino community, because we talk to our students. We have 250 students. We hear their stories. We hear where they live. We hear how long it takes them to drive here. We hear how much they pay in rent, exorbitant. And I have to admit that sometimes the stories we hear are stories of other Latinos that take advantage of Latinos, and they offer really not adequate living for a lot of money. So they also have to own the fact that it's within the Latino community. There's some people who are not the most helpful. A lot of our students don't work for large organizations where they would have an employer who could possibly provide housing. Again, if you're cutting grass or even if you're in construction, oftentimes they're just like working hands, and you will not have the support of an employer providing housing. But at the same time, they have children. They need stability. They need to go to school. They cannot keep changing address. And we see sometimes students who don't come to class. Why? Because they are dealing with the fear of imminent homelessness. And obviously we cannot help them. That's not what we do. But that's where we look to the town or the village and elected officials to help address the issue.
Jerry, I wonder if you can give us the village perspective on this issue.
Yeah, so in the village, obviously we've always talked about having apartments above some of the stores, things like that. But our hang up with getting that done is the sewer system. We need a central sewer system that's approved by the health department to be allowed to do these things. And so far, we've been very unsuccessful with getting that done. So, and the other problem is a lot of the stores that now occupy most of those buildings are high-end stores that have no interest in renting apartments. They're now their offices upstairs. So, the village is not charged with, our municipality is not charged with creating affordable housing. We don't raise money for affordable housing. That is a town responsibility, and I support their ideas. You need multiple, you need rentals, you need ownership, and I don't think this is a bad idea to have, like where the Stearns used to be. I think that project is a good project that would allow seasonal employees to live there, to help our restaurants, to help our farms, things like that, and would also free up the houses that are actually being used by businesses to put their employees in, because that takes the inventory out, right? And now we have year-round people that can't live there because those houses are being saved because they need their employees to be successful. So it's a multifaceted formula, and I agree, and I think Katie and the housing East Hampton Town Housing Authority has done a great job with the 3 Mile Harbor location with the 50 units they put online back in 24. So I think everybody's doing the best they can with this, and it's a very hard situation. That project on 3 Mile Harbor, I mean, I agree with Kathy, it was just the wrong location, but I think the Stearns property would be very successful. So,
David, just to put a fine point on it, Jerry's raised the issue of sewage. That is lurking in the background of this conversation too with affordable housing, right? Any solutions that you might have at the town level are tied to being able to provide for the sewer needs, right? And that's limiting.
Not correct. No.
Oh, okay.
So any large projects, yes, but any minor, smaller projects, maybe not. And that's what I was trying to say. Affordable housing is not a 79-unit project. It's not a 30-unit project. Maybe it's 2 here. Maybe it's 1 over there. Maybe it's going into the LBO, a limited business overlay, which is right across the street, allowing the basement now, which the town board did a couple of years ago, to be an apartment if it has appropriate egress on there, safety factors, and rent it out for the right price. So it is limiting in the factor, along with parking also, in maybe central business districts, areas that might be more confined, in which a lot of the septic systems, like the back parking lot, and we're talking primary example here, are all individually based, not like a packing plant. But there are other areas in which you can develop affordable housing without looking for a large sewer septic system. When Jerry's discussing this about the village, it is appropriate there, but there's also caveats with septic systems. We've dealt with this in Montauk also, and the fear with that could be greater expansion. Okay, so because with a septic system, you don't have all the setbacks to either other people's wells, other people's building septic systems. So there's also pinch points and conflicts there. But there are some projects you can do. But on the larger ones, you do need to provide a type of treatment plant. Or if it's going to be in a hamlet area, I would agree, you would want to look at one of the first things, a centralized system, which then has a lot of other discussions, taxes, and also design.
Can the town
And location.
No, I was just going to say, I think Kevin is the expert in the room on sewage treatment because they've put one in at Gansett Meadows. They've done it at 3 Mile Harbor. They'll have to do one on the Route 114 project.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the larger caliber commercial jobs, they have a significant amount of hurdles, not due to blame the township. We're at the mercy of a municipality in terms of the county. Jointly, I think collectively, if the town were to start itemizing, let's break down and let's dissect the issue, because we're hearing that there's potential projects for affordable housing on a commercial grade level, which always experiences a huge amount of pushback. No, everybody wants it. Nobody wants it in their backyard. So that would be one independent committee. Another committee, if you would, formulate would be full-time residential. Let me convert the storage space above my garage into affordable housing. Give me a tax break on it. Give me a break in terms of the overall building permit to transfer that. I think you'd have a lot of residents say, I would love a break on my taxes. I know this wonderful first grade teacher who would die to have a 1-bedroom studio apartment, and then break a third committee into seasonal housing. Seasonal housing should be airtight. I could get on board in terms of employer-matched housing if it's on a seasonal basis, because I'm coming here, I'm working here for 2 to 3 months out of the year. I know my housing is included. I'm all there. And then what to do with that seasonal residence when it's offline is the next question. But if you were to dissect this into 3 major groups, create committees, find 4 or 5 more Catherine Casey's out there. Triple the size of the East Hampton Housing Authority, who does an exceptional job of managing those expectations, making sure all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. It's an airtight situation when the Housing Authority oversees a project. There's never any loopholes. It's very consistent. So there's great opportunity for growth opportunity within each East Hampton Housing.
Sure. About growth opportunity. So I think what I also would like to say is a thank you to everyone that's out here right now, because we all voted for the financial conduit for that potential growth opportunity in a referendum for the community housing fund 3 years ago now. We're just starting to see that reward of the percolation and the accumulation of the transfer tax, that these opportunities and designs of projects can be out there, be subsidized, be granted on there. So I think it would have been a completely different conversation 5 years ago when that wasn't there. It has been met now, it is here now, and having discussions that Kevin just mentioned, we have to be creative, because now the financial aspect of it is a little bit easier for everyone then too. So creativity, I think, is one of the things I think we're trying to hear from the board. Be creative, but also do it in a way that is very accepting to the locations that you might want to put it at.
Can the town get there 1, 2, 3 units at a time, though? Because it's a big hill to climb as far as meeting the need that's out there right now.
I'll say right now, the town will never get there. I don't think we hear this a lot, I don't think we'll ever build our way out of it then too, but the worst action is no action. I'd rather take slow progress than no progress.
Fair enough.
Amen.
I mean, a quick show of hands with everybody in the audience right now. If you had the opportunity to have a 400 square foot accessory dwelling built at cost for tax benefits, show of hands, who would go ahead and allow an opportunity for a local resident to have a full-time rental? I mean, right there, there's the start of your committee. I would do it in a heartbeat if there was a tax incentive for the resident. Tax incentive for the resident, potential incentive for a local general contractor to build everything at cost, and incentivization from the town to say, here's a 80% discount on the building permit for that resident. Your taxes are not going to go up, because the last thing you want to do is build a 400 square foot house, rent it to somebody for $1,000 a month, and then have your taxes go up $3,000 a month. It's a non-starter.
Why is it so hard to get there then? If that's a fairly...
I think I just started it. Let's go.
Well, I will say it's kind of a dubious honor to be called the sewage expert in the room, by the way. just saying. I mean, congratulations. Don't get me wrong.
I've been called worse.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And gloves, I hope. Do we have something from the audience? I believe somebody up in the back. Oh. Okay, let her come up to you with the microphone. We'll get you guys.
Yes, Larry Haig, Sag Harbor Village. I work at Compass Real Estate. The question I had was we've been talking about these housing conversations for years. The one thing I've never read or seen come out of any of the government entities regarding it is to define the scope of what we're dealing with. How many people are we talking about that have jobs out here that need housing? What is the scope of it? Because we can sit there and say every person's got to put an accessory structure on their property, but is that going to handle the need? And until we define the scope of what it is, how many people we're dealing with, you can't take apart how you want to deal with it. Because if it's that big a number, can our school systems handle it? And you have to change the budgets of the school system too. And that's the thing that I've seen missing in so many of the conversations around the housing complex. And I know because I looked at in 2021, and got caught up with the pandemic. I was trying to build a ferry system to bring ferries from Riverhead out to the East End. And I got pushed back by every local community that I approached about they didn't want the traffic in their community for where a ferry was going to dock, which is interesting, yet they'll allow it on 27. But anyway, that's my point is I think we need to define how many people we're talking about and through that you'll find an answer as to what some of the best resources are.
It's a great point. Let's try and get an answer from a couple of different directions. So objectively, do we have numbers at the town level? What is that number of the number of people that you think need housing right now? What do your studies?
We have not quantified that because we've had these conversations in town hall, and we always come back to we could never build enough. Like Katie and I have talked about, we could build 100 one-bedrooms tomorrow and have them filled like that. So we haven't done that.
Could you build 500 tomorrow and fill them like that? I mean, I'm just trying to get hands around a number.
We haven't quantified it. I mean, I've had conversations with Tina LaGuerin, who is our planning director, and what we're going to be doing. Now I'm giving out what was going to say in the state of the town.
Oh, good. Listen up, everybody.
No. What we're talking about is, like right now when we're looking. Typically, the town puts the affordable housing overlay on a parcel that we're looking to develop, or the housing authority is looking to develop, right? So we put in an affordable housing overlay on the Green at Gardner's Point on 3 Mile Harbor. We put it on the properties, the 3 properties on Route 114. But we're doing them, as they come up. What we need to do is take a global look at that. So what we're going to be doing in 2026, the planning department is going to be scoping out what would the study look like. And then we need to look at the whole town. Where does it make sense to put an affordable housing overlay? And what's going to play into that are the traffic impacts. Right, and how because they go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. So we're going to then put the study for it, and in the 2027 capital plan, because the study could be $100,000.
So you're going to try and get your hands around a number.
Try to get our hands around.
So let me ask Kevin. Yeah. There is an objective way to ask this question, which is how many people are on the waiting list for help with housing in the town?
That number can't be substantiated because you're looking at it from a Suffolk County level. So you have applicants from all over Suffolk County. Are we trying to dissect it per township, per hamlet?
Do we know how many of them are actually in the town at the moment?
We could substantiate, but it's hundreds. It's hundreds on a waiting list.
And how many units get given out in an average year? Like you have hundreds on a waiting list. How many units actually get awarded in a year?
It's all dependent because we have long-term tenants. So if we have a vacancy, Ms. Casey goes to the list, and that list has got hundreds of people on it.
I'm just trying to get an idea of, is it like 20 a year? Is it 50 a year? Or is it?
No, to answer your previous question, I think the town, if they were to fulfill 300 individual opportunities for housing, it would be filled within 10 months.
Okay.
Can I add to that also?
Oh, absolutely.
So I think one of the things that the supervisor was saying is that we have outdated data right now. We just had a recent census that came through 4 years ago. Part of our data comes from our comp plan, which is nearly 25 years old. I know the village is looking into this. This is something the town has also been discussing. But some of these studies that we're going on right now with the numbers that you're asking about is very old data right now. I personally believe in some of those plans years ago when properties, AHOs were removed or downsized, wasn't as forward thinking, because now we're in a little bit of a quandary here in 2025. But what happens now, working with the staff, the supervisor, is there's ways that we can take new studies and then look at, okay, are we going to do a long range plan, because comp plans should be redone after a certain amount of time. It's a massive undertaking. The gentleman down at the end will tell you, and we understand what that takes also. But one of the biggest components of it is right now, what do we need for the affordable housing aspect of it? What do we need for the word affordability also?
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. Andrew, Amanda, do you guys have any way to characterize the need right now in your communities? What do you see? Andrew, you want to go first? I mean, is there a way to put a number on this? Because I understand what this gentleman's point is, and it sounds like the town is working its way towards trying to answer this in a more substantive way, but we really don't even know what the demand is at this point.
Well, do we have an exact number of how many Latinos live in our community? I don't think we do. Do we?
I don't know. I mean, I looked at the census data, we've been talking from 2015 to 2024, our year-round population has increased 35%. And I've asked the planning department for a work session in January or early February to come and just give us an update, where is that growth coming from, so that we can, have the demographics and be able to put our hands around it.
But I cannot imagine that we could ever fill the number of housing necessary, because the minute you do and you solve the problem, then people say, oh, how great, we can move to East Hampton and work in East Hampton, and then we have more newcomers. It's like trying to solve the problem of the traffic. You get some cars off the road, then people say, good, the traffic is not bad, so I'll get on that road.
Fair comparison.
It's very good.
I believe we have someone over here. Did you, pardon me for a second, Jerry, did you want to say something?
No, the only thing we employ about 100 people in the village, and then we have our volunteers on top of that. And I know in the village, we have about maybe 30 people that are commuting, and there's no way to fix that for them. So what we've started doing is making incentives to bring people out here, because the problem is you hire people at Village Hall, and as soon as they find a job somewhere closer to home, they leave. And that presents a bunch of problems. Like David was bringing up earlier, when I was young and I had small kids, I was the coach of Little League, and I was, my wife was in charge of the Girl Scouts. And you're losing that now. It was historically the police department always coached Little League. I don't know if you all remember that, and I know Alex coached a lot of Little League, or was at least an umpire in Little League for a long time.
He's a coach. He's got the banners to prove it out there. Stephen Hans Papp.
And I think you're losing that, because people that just work here, whether it's in our school or in our town or in our village, they want to be with their families. So the second, they're done with work, they're heading back home. So it's going to get more and more difficult, especially with second homeowners. The village is 85% second homeowners now. It's spreading into the town. We all know that. We're losing the inventory of year-round houses. So what we've started doing is making an incentive for people to come. Like starting January, we're going to announce we're not having anybody who's employed pay into their insurance anymore, to try to make incentive for people to come out. We're looking into, with Whitmore, for daycare. If you work for the village, you get free daycare for a certain age child for so many people. And just trying to come up with ideas that will keep the workforce. I know it's terrible to drive, but to keep the workforce interested in coming out here, because we need the workforce. We're lucky in the village where we're able to pay a little higher salaries, where we have these incentives going, and we're able to retain. None of our departments are low. Everybody's up to full speed, and we're lucky that way. So if we can't fix the housing, we have to come up with incentives to bring people out here.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Of course, thank you. Thank you for putting this together and for everyone being here. My name is Jane Meering. I'm an Amagansett full-time resident. I have a two-part question, actually. So first of all, I follow a lot of the boards closely, and when I watch planning board meetings, they do site plan. And as part of site plan review, and I know you do site plan on village projects as well, but it's excruciating analysis about parking, and it's excruciating analysis about traffic impacts. But I'd be curious if you'd be willing to think about amending the site plan protocol, because when we have new businesses come to town, and we have some very large global companies coming to add more businesses, which is wonderful, why are they not asked, how many employers are you going to need for this new business, and how are you going to house them? I mean, it should be, if you're going to spend time thinking about cars and septic flow and things like that, it probably, there needs to be potentially some accountability from people who want to come and benefit from especially our seasonal community. So that's my question, would you be willing to do that? And my second part is kind of dovetails off of something that Katie Casey talked about in front of the board not that long ago, the idea of land banking. Now that these community housing fund revenues are, I won't say piling up, but they're coming in, and there's probably some stability. Could you say, that this does buying land, it could be an acre, it could be 3 acres, it could be 11 acres, it could be 6.7 acres. It could be anything, but is that a priority for the use of those CHF funds? Thank you.
Good questions. Somebody want to field that?
Yeah, Jade, I agree about the land banking. When I came on the board 8 years ago, it was put in my ear by the Community Housing Advisory Board at the time, CHOF, which is now CHAB, that by purchasing a piece of property to get a key in the door is going to take you 6 to 8 years on there. We've been able to decrease that, but one of the only ways to decrease that is by actually banking land at that time. Under Supervisor Cantwell here, they looked at the now Cantwell Court for home ownership. That's a process in a targeted piece of property that had its own legal wranglings there. And the supervisor just mentioned about banking land on 114 and cobble them together. So yes, trying to purchase properties to try to develop larger scale of projects has been something we're looking at. What you just mentioned is about smaller size properties. I also look at pre-existing non-conforming properties also, where individuals and people that live next door to them are used to maybe 4 units that are on there because they've been there prior to 1954 on there. So there's options that are out there to look at, and that goes back to what I mentioned earlier. It's about looking at all different designs also. But I think land banking is super important, because if you miss on a property this year, it ain't going down next year.
And we've tried in Montauk, and unfortunately we've identified a couple of parcels over the time that I've been on the board. And when the seller realized that we were up front, we're looking to do this for affordable housing, they're like, never mind.
Now, why is that?
I guess they just didn't want to do that to their neighborhood before they moved out, or they owned adjacent property and they didn't want affordable housing in their backyard.
Apologies. Do what? Because there's a root of that question that I think we've got to answer here is, what is the stigma that comes with this? What do property owners think is going to happen?
Well, I certainly think your values of your properties are going to go down. The congestion in your neighborhood is going to go up. Those are real fears that people have. There's no way to, I think anybody in this room, if there was an affordable housing complex or a workforce housing complex going in right next to you, you'd probably be concerned about it. I get that. That's why I think these projects on Montauk Highway are really smart. And if we have more land, on Montauk Highway, they would be very good projects. Like, I really think the one at the Stearns property is going to be a very well done project.
Serious question. If it were a luxury condo project of the same size, would you get the same reaction?
I think you would.
That's my
not
question.
about the congestion and everything. I don't think about the lower of the value of your home.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you know, the affordable houses, I mean, it's great, but they're not, you know, they're cookie cutter homes, and it's definitely going to lower the value of your properties. And that's a real fear that people have. There's no doubt about it.
What I don't understand about that is the person living in that house very likely may end up being an editor of the newspaper. I mean, you don't know.
It could also be your son or your daughter.
We'll come
So,
over
Joe,
to you.
we have properties like that, luxury ones. People don't see it. You remember everyone clam pies. Who remembers where you used to buy clam pies? The Crystal Room. I believe the Crystal Room property is now turned into 8 luxury apartments, or it might be the property next door, luxury individual homes, but only for senior ages on there. That's there. People were used to that. Also, next door to that, or Dune Alpine, are locations which in the previous 40, 50 years were developed as type of condos, and people are comfortable with it. There's a fear out there of change. Let's just say it up front. If you went through here, you gave people are afraid of change at times. You also have to be creative about it and be respectful to the neighborhoods too.
Fair enough. We'll get to you in a second here.
Yeah, so I see, it's Adam Miller. I see this from a couple different angles. One, I sit on the Community Housing Association Board, which is tasked with spending this 0.5% that David mentioned. But on the other side, I do closings almost weekly. And what I see there is we're putting 2% towards preservation and 0.5% towards this housing. So each closing I do, I feel like I'm adding to this problem of affordability in that we're continuing to sterilize land. I think it's been 28 years now. And I believe the community would be behind sort of switching the percentages in that creating more funds for the housing and less on sterilization, which is obviously driving up the cost of housing and the availability of housing. I'd love to hear what the board has to say about that.
I agree with you, Adam. And on top of that, I think we should have more money towards water quality, because that water quality and housing are our biggest 2 issues on the east end of Long Island. So I agree 100%.
Do you guys want to give it? Kathy, do you have a response?
No, I mean, I haven't really thought of that through what Adam is putting up. I mean, we have with the 0.5%, we've collected $21 million for housing. We probably have about $15 million in the bank that hasn't been committed. I mean, that's a drop in the bucket when one unit in a development costs $500,000. So 50 units is $25 million. So yes, but the CPF you have to look at is not just, you talk about it, Adam, as sterilizing properties. We bought the property on Wainscott Main Street that gave us access to one of the most impaired ponds on Long Island, right? And now we're going to be able to remediate that. They have blue-green algae, and we're going to be able to have some kind of public access. It's also got historic properties there, homes on that property. So, we can use the money for recreation. So it's got, there's a lot of buckets that you can use CPF funding for.
Like the Stoll Star Room, for example. Okay, a perfectly horrible example of these parks. I've never seen anyone in that park. It's on the highway. People use that park. Okay, I've never seen anyone. I've never seen anyone on the highway park. Nonetheless, it's amazing.
So can I throw one out there also, if you don't mind, Joe? So,
Sure.
So I think one of the things we're missing here is that affordable housing, going back to what I first stated, doesn't always have to be in the municipality. The conversation started what was happening at 152 Three Mile Harbor, and it was an individual private developer that was trying to give a different approach. And I think as what we're hearing is that that approach needs to be moved forward or listened to and not necessarily shut down. That approach also is not just for private developers, but also we're working with other municipalities. You have two at the table here, representatives. You also have the county. They have a lot of land. I've gone up to the county in Hop Hog and I've gotten yelled at by people about affordable housing. Excuse me, I didn't get yelled at. I sat there, heard people talk who are sort of yelling at me, but talking to the county. Sorry. The state's got a lot of land out here. Engage other potential municipalities that might be able to assist us out here locally in appropriate ways. I think that goes to what Kevin was also mentioning then too. Let's just continue being creative, but don't shut something down so hard as we all understand that this still is a problem, in my humble opinion.
And I think the group YIMBY, Yes in My Backyard, has been really helpful in creating, anytime we go to public hearing on whether we're looking to expand ADUs or we've got a new legislation that we're going to be hearing again, affordable multiple residence, that we hear from members of our community so that, and it's created a headwind, I believe.
Hi, thank you all for being here. This is wonderful.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Katie Casey, guilty as charged. A couple things real quick. Lee Koppelman, I think it was 1985, when pressed to enumerate, said we have a shortfall of 2,000 housing units.
And what year was that again?
1985, I believe. That is probably still true, but I will tell you, before we do a project, we do a market study, and the market study always looks at the open real estate market, school enrollment trends, the pilot payment in lieu of taxes, what does it cost to educate a pupil in East Hampton. We have to do a full-blown market study. They typically cost around $40,000. Before we commenced Gansett Meadow in Amagansett, we did a full-blown market study, and then a little thing called COVID happened that nulled all of our numbers. So the only thing that's constant is change. We do continually analyze it. Do we need smaller units? Do we need bigger units? Rentals, ownership? So I just want to assure the community that we are constantly analyzing what do we need and how many of them. Land banking, that I just want to point out that should be thought of not only as vacant land, but existing properties. I'm thinking of Home Sweet Home in Wainscott. That, it's we can repurpose properties. Preservation and housing development don't have to be at odds. And land banking, I would encourage the community to support the town board and the village in purchasing, and then perhaps take a breath. Okay, we have this, we're not under pressure, we're not afraid we're going to lose it. Engage the community and invite all of the stakeholders to participate in the design. You're going to get a better product. That's my, and I have to dispel a couple myths. Affordable housing does not depress property values. That has already been debunked over and over again. I gotta say it. And sewage treatment plants do not have an odor. They just don't.
Either do I.
Yeah.
And he's an expert. I do want to move. Okay, I did want to move on. Any last points, questions here before we move on? I do want to ask some other questions.
Hi, thank you very much to the panelists. My name is Marilyn Van Scoik, guilty as charged, a teacher at East Hampton High School. I lived in East Hampton for over 30 years. I want to talk about the CHF for a minute, the amount of money that you have there and how you're dispersing it. Just to let you know about a program that's in California, in Alameda County. They have a program there for first-time homebuyers and young families where the county gives a no-interest loan of up to $210,000 to the purchasers, the young family. They have to meet income qualifications. Upon sale of the home, all the property values are rising. The loan is then paid back, and they get the loan has a share in the accumulated property value. So if the property value goes up by 10%, that much 10% is then paid back on the loan. That goes back into the Alameda County AC Boost program. But it helps young families and people who are first-time home buyers. And I'd love to see something like that in the town of East Hampton for high school graduates who want to stay here, they want to find a house. There are not a lot of affordable properties. I mean, that's a big problem here, but it's also a huge problem in the Bay Area in California. You can't find a house for under $1 million there, even for a young family. So that's why $200,000 goes a long way toward that down payment and really helps them achieve home ownership. So I'd like you to speak to that.
So the town, when Kathy and I were on the board, the community housing fund was approved by referendum by the 5 East End towns. The town board was allowed to start a program like that. The program we have is for $30,000 right now. Individuals have applied for that. You go to a public hearing, and $30,000 has been given out to home ownership, first-time homeowners, maybe a dozen by now ish. But the number that you mentioned at $210,000, that's substantial in a good way on there. We do claw it back upon purchase, but not upon escalation of appraised value on purchase. That's an interesting thought also. God bless you. But now you make me look at $30,000 as not being enough. But when we first started this, we had to stick to a budget. In the first year of accumulation, as the supervisor just said, we weren't $6 million. We didn't know what was going to be coming in, so we adjust it, and it comes very similar to the water quality. The water quality through the community housing, CPF, was just changed through the general obligation law, through the state, through Fred Thiel and Senator Palumbo. That we might be able to, and that those fundings rolled over. What we can do with the CHAB money right now, community housing money, we can adjust also. We just heard from Melissa McCarron about how we should potentially change the funding for septic systems and increase it up now to potentially $300,000 for commercial septic systems. There's opportunity to adjust when you're Kathy and I in our seats here. We look forward to engaging those adjustments as we go and seeing how other communities have done it effectively, because we are trying out here, but we had it the first time at it. And I personally talk for myself. I think looking at it as you're seeing, Dr. V, in ways that we may have to escalate those numbers is a valued conversation.
David, is there a payback on that $30,000 that you're giving out, or is that just a gift?
That's a grant.
That's a grant.
Yeah.
Okay. So these funds are all paid back.
Correct.
To the county.
On sale,
in
right?
California.
On sale. Once the house
On the
sells.
sale or
We're
on
back
the
on it?
refinance?
Yeah, exactly. So in order, I want to move on a little bit, but to kind of put a cap on this, one of the things I wanted to ask is the place to start with affordable housing maybe with the town's largest employers, which is municipalities, school districts, and to a degree the hospital. One of the things that you guys have looked at to help solve the traffic crisis has been use of the railroad for getting people out here more efficiently. And it seems to have had some effect whenever the commuter. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. South Fork Commuter Connection. Thank you. Has had some success on that front, and I wonder if maybe some of the affordable housing measures should focus on those employers first to try and make a similar dent. But that leads me to the question of the railroad. So the LIRR and the MTA now have some money that they're supposed to spend on the South Fork in order to upgrade the local facilities. What do you think is the most necessary thing that the MTA and the LIR needs to do with that money?
They need to add additional sidings so that the trains can cross, because right now we have 2 trains in the morning and 2 trains in the afternoon. So for instance, our public information officer, Patrick Dorenz, is here. He's in the office at 7 o'clock and he's out the door at 10 to 3. So when Jack Motes has a question at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Patrick's already gone for the day. Not that he doesn't look at his phone, he does. He's 24/7. But I mean, it's not, the hours aren't really working. You know, you otherwise, you know, a staff member comes in after 9 and then has to leave before 5 in order to make the train. We need more trains, and we need them at convenient times so more staff can use it.
Fair enough. What kind of a game changer would that be in general for, does anybody on the panel have any thoughts about this?
Well, if the MTA has a lot of money left over, they should fix the bridge at Cranberry Hall Road. Asking for a friend.
So, but can I add on to that? Because you're exactly right, Kevin. So I'm not here to speak for the MTA in any which way or in their advocate. The MTA takes tax dollars from us through their MTA tax. Supervisor is talking about flex hours, and flex hours is sort of what the mayor is saying also to try to attract and retain, do flex hours, and I think that's appropriate what the town has done. With the Cranberry Hall Bridge, which I'm not going to give you a deadline or anything like that, we might get a septic treatment plant before we get that bridge done. But what we have seen is, through Fred Thiel, Nick Fasano, the supervisor, myself, we have seen the engineered plans. And the engineered plans now in the MTA have sidings. Now, do they have rails? No, but the design has for two rails going underneath of it. So they are future looking at this, as I think they had to put in $292 million into their capital budget, which got approved. So in the moment, in the emergency, they were listening to us out here, what we need. We as a community need to continue on with our affordability to try to get them now to implement the sidings out here from Spionk out east.
I will tell you that there's a bridge in Hampton Bays that crosses over the tracks that very similarly is being redesigned to accommodate a second track. So it is part of their plans. Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just
Can you
quick,
introduce yourself, please?
Yep, sure, of course. Biddle Duke, among other things, a columnist for the Express News Group. Just an observation. This is such a deeply personal question about affordability and the ability to actually live here. The elephant in the room really is the rate of appreciation of real estate in this community. And I'm just going to try and bring it home for everyone in this room. We want to be able to pass on our houses to our children, as David mentioned, you know, keeping East Hampton High School graduates here. I wonder how many people in this room would be able to afford their houses today. You know, I bought my house in Springs in 2014, and it's appreciated. I mean, you know, it depends who I talk to in the real estate community. They're always telling me that, giving me great numbers. But I think that actually illustrates how grave and how serious this question is. Could David, could Jerry pass on their houses, their homes, whether they're houses or apartments, to our children? In many, many cases, no. Could we buy our houses today if you bought your house more than, 10 years ago? Anyway, just wanted to highlight that because that's how serious this problem is and how it touches everyone's life who lives here. You know, I mean, it's the clash of two economies, the economy of here versus the economy of people who are coming here to buy houses and are making money at a much higher rate, at an exponential rate compared to what we're doing in this community. Anyway, just wanted to make that observation.
And if I could put numbers on that. So Joe and I bought a house in Clearwater Beach in 1997 because Arthur Goldman said Springs had such great schools and it was affordable. And we bought a house that was a ranch, 900 square feet. It was palatial to us. It was $142,500 on a builder's half acre.
We had to learn how to use the dishwasher.
And we had, the couple we bought it from, they had owned it since 1963 and had every warranty for every appliance. I was pregnant with Burke. Joe had to go down the basement, and Mr. Trumbull had to teach him how to use, not that he didn't know, but he felt he had to teach him how to use the washer and dryer. You know, our daughter now is saving to buy a house. She needs to save more in a down payment than what we paid for a house. I mean, wrap your head around that. It's so hard. But I mean, I guess, that's the bad news. Can I bring some good news? I mean, we have 335 year-round employees for the town of East Hampton. We have 9 openings. So we have done a really good job of recruiting and retaining staff. I was fortunate enough to be invited to the CSEA Christmas party on Friday night, and I looked around and I'm like, oh my God, look at all these young people that are here. Like, we do resolutions when we hire people and, we see it, but 21% of our staff is under 30 years old. And when you look at the federal government, because that's the only stat we could find, 7 to 9% are under 30. And we have 21% are under 30 years old. So that's the future is bright piece, for me.
How about that? I want to open it up to the audience for other topics that you guys think we need to talk about. Does anybody have any questions, comments? While you're thinking, because don't leave me hanging here. Jerry, I want to go back. You brought up the sewers in the village. What's an update on that? You're not alone here, and I'm not going to pick on you because certainly it's been a challenge for so many villages to get a sewer system in place. But talk about where you are right now with the village sewer system and what a path forward might be.
Yeah, so we had what we thought was a great plan to put the sewer system under the parking lot behind Herrick Park. And we had all the plans designed, and we turned it over to the DEC. The DEC took 1.5 years to deny us. So then we had to go back to the drawing board. And
can I ask why they denied it?
Because
did they give you reasons?
It's never been done in New York.
What, the
underground sewer system. It would have manhole covers so you could climb down into it, but you could still use the parking lot above. So we thought it was, a great idea. And it would not, because we can't eliminate parking, that's for sure. We don't have enough as it is. And then we started to look at properties within the village. We could only find one that is large enough, and it's on King Street. I met with the owner, and he doesn't want to sell it, and I'm certainly not going to condemn it. So then we started to look at just outside of the village, like towards Long Lane, but all of those properties, the building rights have all been bought through CPF money, which is great, but you can't do anything on those properties either. So we have no property in the village that's large enough to house this. So we're now looking at our highway department, which is located in the town at 172 Accabonac. So we're looking at that, but all of this takes a lot of time and money, and we're still waiting for the engineers to get back to us to tell us if that's a suitable location.
Is there a plan B if it's not?
No, there is no. We talked with Sag Harbor about maybe going to theirs, but the cost would be astronomical. It's like a lot of money per mile. Sure. We'd have to go down 114 to meet to there. They were thinking of moving theirs, which is in Sag Harbor now, to more towards the golf course, which is further south on 114. So that might be a situation where we could tie into them.
Not unprecedented, because that's what West Hampton Beach
That's what West Hampton Village
and
did.
what Southampton Village is now thinking of doing with the college, too.
Yeah. West Hampton Village did a great job, and they tied theirs into the existing sewer plant at the airport.
Let me ask you a
run by the county.
second question about West Hampton Beach being part of it. I don't know if you're aware of this, but West Hampton Beach looks at the East Hampton Village paid parking situation and thinks it's wonderful. And they're thinking of adopting it. Are you happy with how it's turning out?
We're super happy. It solved all our problems in the village, because we still give it was always 2 hours for free. So we still give the 2 hours for free, but now you can buy extra time so that you can go to a movie, you can go to a restaurant, you can still shop. And that's what the store owners wanted. So we did it, and it's working terrifically.
Is everybody happy with the paid parking in the village? Any complaints? I will move on. Okay.
I can't afford to shop in the
That's fine. Still looking around. Anybody have anything they want to? Okay, senior center. Let's talk about that project. That has changed significantly now into a community center. Kathy, can you talk about why? Why is that project evolving the way it is?
Well, I think we got, more community input. When Tom Flight got assigned to the Amagansett CAC, it was on the agenda every month, and he was getting a lot of comments from folks. The papers were covering the meetings. And then, so we were hearing from folks that they wanted to see it to be more broadly accessible across the community. And then we, launched the Montauk Playhouse. The president of the Montauk Playhouse Community Center Foundation Board is here, Jen Iacono. We cut the ribbon in August with the governor, and everybody got a tour of that facility and said, wait a minute, this is really what we need to be doing here. We need to make this more of a community center than a senior center. I mean, we still need to house our human services department there, but I think that this is something that the community is bought into.
And David, will the seniors still get their share out of this project?
They have to. There's no other way I would want it than to. My mother used to tell me, because at one point we lived on Floyd Street, about going to the bar where the current senior center is. And everything there is just, it's past its prime, past its useful life. We have to dedicate to the individuals that were here prior to me, but also to the younger individuals underneath me too. And that's a promise that I made to my mom and my dad, that the senior center would get complete, and I will stand on that till I'm done this job.
Mm-hmm. And what's the timetable look like at this point?
I know it's very early.
Yeah, we don't have a timetable right now.
One of the things at the Artist Woods there is that we were fortunate is that Kathy was able to negotiate was to actually accumulate more municipal land there too. Initially it was only 7 acres. Now we accumulated another 7 acres post this location being targeted, and also architects being hired for that. So there is elements that we can look at more of a design with the cumulative acreage there next to a major recreational facility being the Terry King ball fields also.
I'm curious, is there any concern about a negative impact on, say, the YMCA, which is struggling as it is, and now the community center?
Well, what makes you think the YMCA is struggling? It has the second largest membership on Long Island.
Okay.
And so it's outgrown its space there, but it's not struggling. It's actually doing very, very well.
So you don't think there's going to be any issue there?
No.
There could even be collaboration in the future also.
And there is currently collaboration.
Yeah.
The Y sends instructors to the senior center every week. And it's part of our Wellness 60 Plus program. That's where we get our instructors from, is the YMCA.
So at the YMCA, I remember playing Little League and we beat Masons because I was on Village PBA one time. That's right back at you, Alex. There was that one time we beat you, only once. When the YMCA went
I'm
in...
sure you remember the score.
I just remember we won. When the facility was built, it was great at the time, but it's a product of its own success. And the facility wasn't designed for the success it is now. Right now, we now know that working with Jen and the Playhouse Foundation in Montauk, with they had a pool. We built the YMCA, or I didn't build it. YMCA was built, or the rec center at the time, and now we have state championship swimming teams out here. Let me go back to what I said earlier. I love recreation. Kids and adults love recreation. If we can build something that pulls that all together with different ages working together in a multi-use facility with ball fields next door and hockey rinks, skate parks, basketball, fitness, that is something that I will work and pay 80% of my paycheck to my housing, which is not affordable, as long as I can go to the beach and I can go shoot hoops. So that's something I like and I would like to see there too. So sorry, it's tangent. We did get you that one time.
Andrew, I want to talk about the climate for a sizable part of the population in East Hampton. It's a difficult time for the Spanish-speaking community, I'm guessing, and I'm wondering how much the ice raids that took place in western Southampton Town have had a ripple effect in East Hampton on the community here.
It is terrifying. What is happening is terrifying because these are people who need to go to work. They're here because of work. They need to take their children to school. They need themselves and their children, they need to go to the doctor. And they try to minimize being out on the roads because they're afraid of being scooped up. In fact, this year, we are noticing that there is higher attrition in our program because there are people who signed up in September and by November, they prefer maybe to stay home, which means that they're not doing something that is good for them. Improve your English, go to the doctors, send your children to school. So it's really, really bad. What can we do? Well, we can try to reassure them that the town police, the village police, is not here to arrest them because of an ICE situation. However, we also make them aware that ICE agents act independently of the town and village police. So if they come in, to the best of my understanding, there is no previous announcement. It's not that the village or the town is informed that ICE is going to be in town. I feel that the only protection we have from ICE is the traffic. So
talk about your silver linings, right? Yeah.
So I feel that we're fairly safe until about 11 or 12 noon. The afternoon can be a little rough. So seriously, it is a big problem. And the other day, one of my students didn't show up, and I sent him a message. I said, "Why didn't you show up, and why didn't you send a message?" And he said, "Because I'm sick to my stomach. Because tomorrow, this was the day after class. Tomorrow I have an interview with immigration," and he was just sick to his stomach. How did it go? I don't know. I haven't heard from him, but that is the climate.
And just to put a fine point on it, Jerry and Kathy, the town and village have been pretty vocal about not being part of the enforcement effort against the community.
When this hit, when this was really a hot issue, hotter than it is now, the village had a press conference, and we invited all of the agencies on the East End to stand together and support the Latino community, and to reassure them that the local police were not part of the ICE, not part of the federal government, and will not enforce any of the immigration laws. We will never sign up to be an agent for ICE like Nassau County has. That will never happen. I can confidently say on the East End of Long Island. We've had these conversations at our East End supervisor and mayor's meetings, and I think everybody is on the same page with this issue, and I think it's disgusting what's happening with ICE agents running around with masks on and hunting outfits. I think it's disgusting. And I think, I started a business 20 years ago. I employ 10 full-time people and probably 25 part-time people. And, a lot of them are from the Latino community, and they are very, very afraid of this situation. So I can't say enough or do enough to reassure the Latino community.
Sure, go ahead, Andrew.
May I add that both the village police and the town police has met with our Latino students. Supervisor Kathy and a police officer from the town have come to our classes and met with our students. The village police met with our students. Now, is that the answer? No, but at least to have the opportunity to be in the same room with policemen who can answer questions, at least it takes a little bit of the fear away. And something that we keep telling our students, please drive carefully. If you have a tail light that is out, fix it. Don't add reasons to be stopped, even though the police will not deport you, but don't add to your anxiety.
Fair enough. Kathy.
Congratulations, East Hampton.
And absolutely. And I was going to say the town board actually made a statement when the ICE sweeps happened.
We've made 3 statements. We made it in February, July, and then just last month. But to Andrew's point, so we have an officer in the town police, Daniel Munoz, and police officer Munoz and I have come to back in March, right after the executive order went down. We went and visited with all of the students because we wanted folks to understand that the town police is here to serve and protect, and that we wanted to try to take the temperature down. as Andrew talks about, folks are living, they're terrorized and they're in such fear. But it's also, I can't tell you how many times I get a text, is this ICE, right? It's a black SUV with dark windows, and they're afraid that, folks, and it spreads very quickly on social media. Folks are letting each other know. I got one 2 weeks ago, and it happened to be one of our fire marshals had gotten a new car, and the lettering hadn't been done yet to say fire marshal. It was a dark car, it had dark windows, and people were panicked, and they were picking up a sandwich at the deli, and people were panicked. So when Officer Munoz and I go, we talk about, what we ask questions, they ask questions, but also what should we do at a traffic stop? We're trying to explain the rules of the roads to try to, keep folks, out of being pulled over. And I think it reassures them that there's the town, police and the town board, town government, there's a face, right? And when I went the first couple times, I brought my husband with me, Joe, whose first language is Spanish. I wanted folks to understand that, I'm married to a first generation, and that we are leading with compassion, we're leading with empathy, that there are our Latino neighbors. We're one community. It's not the Latino community. I'm always conscious of when I speak, and the white community. We are one community. And fortunately, in East Hampton, Larry, you stood up. We stand for each other and stand with each other.
What we at Ruta 27 try to do is not only teach the grammar, but also try to teach them civics a little bit. I have taken my students to the police headquarters, and I've told them most people in this town or in this village have never been here. You are seeing something that not even local people have seen. How does it work? What happens when you make an emergency call? And they saw, they did a mock call, and they said, oh, wow, look at all the information that just appears on the screens. So this, I think it's very useful, not only for the safety of the Latino community, but also for a sense of belonging, which is a tricky one. In this town, they feel that they are separate from the white community. For example, we take them to the public library, and they go, we can come here? And say, yeah, it's a public library for Latinos as well. Yeah, you're the public. And for them to discover that the library is a place where they can go is huge. So as much as I appreciate Kathy saying we're one community, but there's still a lot of work to do to be one community.
Fair enough. Yes, we have a question from the audience.
Hi, guys. I'm Jameson, and I know a lot of you because I used to work with a lot of these people at the town. And I feel this is a question that I thought of before you guys just got on that, so this feels a little less important, but it's important to me. And I know the town board members and friends that I have in the town know this. In a lot of the topics that we've touched on with the affordable housing and the affordability issues here, childcare is a big concern for people my age. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and I thought it was very interesting what Jerry said about trying to incentivize employees to the village by perhaps offering to pay for childcare at Eleanor Whitmore, which is where my 2-year-old goes, and my older daughters went through there. And that's a great idea. There's also a very long wait list, so don't skip anybody, because I have friends that have been on the wait list. You get on it when your child is born, and now they opened it up, that they take younger kids, which is great, but it's still, there's a big gap. I think they take now at 1 year, so for those 12 months, you really don't know what to do, and you're piecing together, friends or parents if you're lucky enough to have, that help. and Kathy reminded me when you said, I haven't been following the senior center discussions that closely anymore. Sorry, since I don't work in town hall, I don't have to follow everything so closely, but the sort of multi-use, and I remember that was a discussion that some people were saying, the seniors, like for someone like me, is like, my mom and her needs and her lack of, reliable housing and her activities and things, that's a concern. And then also me and my kids and paying for childcare. So if that's still, a conversation, I appreciate that and encourage that, using this facility for multiple, needs of families. And then also Kate knows, because we've discussed it, whether the CDCH building, if that's ever still, that's an ongoing discussion. That would be a great facility, because I know that the town was instrumental, right, in getting Project Most into Montauk. So they know I was working at Town Hall and living in Sag Harbor on 114 in the Waynescott School District and driving to Montauk and back to get my kid there, because that's the only place that takes babies. It's so difficult. It's still, and Eleanor Whitmore for my 2-year-old is $425 a week, and that's the only affordable childcare out here. So it's well, and so that's why I'm in the boat. And I remember Katie at one of the zoning code committee meetings. So like when you asked the question earlier, raise your hand if you would have, take a tax break, and that you forgot to ask the question, do you own a home? So someone like me, like, you can't fill all of those boxes. So if you're paying that for childcare, times 2, times 3, you're a renter like me. So I'm hoping that you guys can get those opportunities for other people like me. So, and truly, not to tie it up too, cute in a bow, but the immigrant community and the other parents and families that I see in my various drop-offs and pickups, we are all connected in that way. So there are, if your kid is in that affordable childcare, or the Bridgehampton Childcare Center, that my kids go there too, they have like their plan to, if ICE comes, right? Like the kids are hiding. Like I'm gonna get upset. It's so sad, but. So, these issues touch all of us, and I feel like obviously many of them touch me personally. So I thank you all for keeping, an open mind, and don't forget about us, especially the childcare, and, keep working hard for us, and I really appreciate it. So
it's a lot of quality of life questions that need to be addressed. Amanda, before we close, I wonder, we have a little bit of time left. I do want to talk about food security, because that is such a crucial question. Oh, we still have another question?
I've got somebody here, and then can we...
Okay, put a pin in that, Amanda. Come back. We'll close on that real quick.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name's Ruby. I work here, if you saw me already. I am... Well, I thought I was a shining beacon in terms of the topic of being an under 30 workforce. I'm 22, fresh out of college, born and raised in Montauk. I know Tom Flight. I was on the YMCA swim team for 7 years of my life, as well as the other recreational sports around here. And right now, of course, since fresh out of college, I live with my parents, and I wanted to go back to the housing affordability. As much as we like living with our parents, I sometimes worry. Yeah, I love when Mom cooks for me. So, but how long do I need to rely on them before I could start paying for myself, my own wages? Like, how far away will I need to move from East Hampton and my family? Because rather than the wages out here, it's more like the goalpost of getting a house or even rent on its own keeps moving and moving. So I feel like that means I have to move further and further away to just make my own way. I went to school in Savannah, Georgia, Savannah College of Art and Design, and even out there, it was a way worse example of here. I worked in a restaurant down there, only made $700 every 2 weeks, and rent was about could be upwards of $2,000 if you didn't have a roommate. So that's my stand.
That's the challenge.
Yes.
You've got the perspective, though. You're the person that I think we all started talking about at the beginning of the conversation about wanting to be able to give you an opportunity to land here, but it's not easy, is it?
No. The gentleman who mentioned passing his house on to his kids, I was kind of foaming at the mouth to support that statement on its own, because I worked a variety of jobs out here. I'm also a captain with my six-pack, but I'm kind of done working on the water. And, so I have a wide experience with different wages and what you could earn out here. And I just want to make sure that I have a positive outlook for my future in Montauk and that I can remain here, maybe in my own house, preferably, but, I have to see and wait. And, of course, I'm very lucky to have my parents I could rely on, but I also want to make sure I could stand on my own feet in case of any kind of emergency were to happen.
Appreciate your speaking up. Your voice needs to be heard in all this, no question. Amanda, real quickly, I do want to... Oh, okay, one more. We'll go a little bit over time here, if that's okay with you guys. We'll go like 5 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, hi. My name is Larry Smith. I'm on the East Hampton Anti-Bias Task Force and have been since its origin of 35, 40 years ago. We too, at a meeting as recently as last night, sat there wringing our hands and saying, where are the Latino people? Mostly they're either hiding and not want too much exposure for obvious reasons. We talked about ICE. And also they're working. They're pretty busy people, 1, 2 jobs. However, a thought just occurred to me, and Jerry, sitting opposite. Number one, I want to thank you for all the cooperation that you gave to the anti-task force when we did need coordination with the police. Same thing for the town. I know that Mike Tracy and Mike Sarlo are terrific people, leaders, active with the anti-bias task force as well. It occurred to me, though, that in anticipation of these ICE intrusions into our town, that the police departments are limited as to what their efforts can be. But it occurred to me that I don't know why it hadn't occurred to me sooner, but isn't there a responsibility on the part of the police force to protect their residents, the people they work for, even if it's to the case of making sure that ICE conducts its activities against our neighbors without the proper papers, that their job should be, you're in this community, now that you show me where your warrants are. Show me, I have to tell the people that you're taking in that they have no right to enter your house. Well, who's representing these people? I understand this business with the sanctuary city has got its problems. But if the police do nothing more than their job of representing in a positive way, in a going forward way, the neighbors that we have and need so desperately here in our community, can we take on that responsibility, Jerry?
Let me ask Jerry to speak to that, and Andrew as well. But Jerry, police are in a tough situation locally, right?
Well, they're in a tough situation, but most of the time we haven't had any ICE interaction out here that we're aware of yet. So the police are not assisting ICE in any way. First of all, ICE doesn't tell us when they're coming, and they don't have to because they have the authority that they have. So if someone is in their home and ICE shows up, I would encourage them to call the local police, because the local police will respond and they will verify that these people are truly federal agents. And I'm sure they'll ask if they have correct paperwork, because that's just what we, as the police department, that's what you do. And we certainly want to verify, because I'm sure there's situations out there, maybe not in our community, but it's got to be happening, where you have fake ICE people ripping off, stealing money from people and breaking into their homes, and everyone's afraid, so they're not going to tell. And that was my point with this meeting. with the Latino community to ensure them that the local police, that you could trust them, that we're not interested in your immigration status. Because what'll happen is we'll have a vacuum happen where you'll have crime within the Latino community against each other, which is chaos. And that's what I've been saying all along. We don't want chaos in our community. And the local police are not ICE agents and are not going to, they can't interfere, but they can certainly ask questions and they can certainly tell people their rights.
Well, interference is not totally a negative word. Positive interference, protection.
I agree with you. That's what I was saying.
That is a good term. That I think we should let the Latino community know, not by what we say, by our presence and where we are and how conspicuous we are during the ICE raids.
Andrew, do you want to put a fine point on this?
We have to be more visible so that they know that maybe the police are on their side.
Right. Like, I know the one in Hampton Bays happened very quickly, and local police hadn't even arrived. It was over. So, and I can speak for the entire East End, like I said, from Suffolk County Police Department, all the police departments east, are all on the same page as I'm speaking to you today.
Yeah. Well, it would be good if uniformed police, could be in positions to hand out, police in their uniforms, to hand out rights that the Latino community has in protecting themselves.
It's a very good suggestion.
Andrew, we're nearly out of time, so let me let Andrew answer.
To hand out.
Larry, your position, it's very strong and well taken. What we do with our Latino community, with our students, we tell them what can happen if there is a raid, and we can only take partial responsibility for raids that might happen while our program is in progress. We don't know what's going to happen if federal agents show up at their home. When our classes are in progress, first of all, we used to have the entire program meet at the high school, and we didn't feel that it was safe anymore to have so many Latinos in one location. So we sort of broke it down. We still meet at the high school, but we also decided sort of to break it down into smaller groups to be less conspicuous. And at these different locations, we have a protocol in place. If ICE agents were to show up, first of all, one of the teachers at that location has to call our immigration attorney, not their immigration attorney. Ruta 27 has retained the services of a person, of an attorney, who will review the warrant and will decide whether the warrant is legal or not. The second phone call that teacher will make will be to the police, asking them to come and just monitor and record events. The police cannot intervene, but the police can make sure that everything happens in a civilized and calm way.
So you're saying the police basically are being asked to play that role?
When you
intervene.
And that's why it is so important that Officer Munoz and also officers from the village have met with our students, because they start feeling that they are not adversarial. They feel, yes, you're wearing a uniform, but I don't have to be intimidated by the fact that you are a police officer in a uniform. You have to respect them, but not feel intimidated. I hope that this kind of addresses your question.
Before we go, Amanda, you have my deepest apologies. We deserve to spend more time on this, but I have about 30 seconds. This is the holiday season. People are really struggling. Can you kind of encapsulate that a little bit? I think people know this, but let's just remind people how bad it is.
I'd like to comment on that.
With a 30-second clock. Well, I think we've talked about really some challenging issues today, and I think they're all associated with affordability and the crunch that we all feel in different ways in this community. And as a person who's a transplant, I wasn't born here, but this is my home. I love living here. You might roll up to East Hampton by accident, but you don't stay by accident. Like, you really have to work hard to stay here. And I think I'm buoyed by the people on this panel and in this room who are really eagerly and excitedly working at solving the problems that we in our community face. So I'll just say, on the note of food security and insecurity, about 10% of our East Hampton population is food insecure. They rely weekly on the services of food pantries that are hosted in Montauk and East Hampton and Springs and the Bridgehampton Child Care Center. And when federal and USDA cuts happen, the need, of course, doesn't go away. It shrinks the loop of who's available to be the helpers. And certainly, I think this year we saw a real increased demand for food from our local farms, from our food pantries. So Ian is here from Balsam Farms, and Share the Harvest Farm is very active in this community. So is Amber Waves. So I would just encourage you at this time of year to think about our neighbors, many of whom seem invisible, but who rely heavily on those support services, and support your food pantries, support your local farms who are also supporting food pantries. Thanks for the help and support.
Thank you for taking the time to say that. Keep applauding, because I'd like you to join me in thanking our panel for a great conversation and for going overtime. Thank you to Rowdy Hall. Thank you to WLIW, as always. And thank you to all of our sponsors. That's our last Express Sessions event for 2026. We have one coming up in January in 2027. Thank you all. Have a great holiday season, and see you next year.